So today we are going to go over some basic fishing weights, introduce to you what many of them are, and for the pros and cons of each overall choice and how that's going to affect you as a fisherman. A lot of these options are well known, but many of them don't discuss why they are important to you as a fisherman and the choices that you have within them. So we're going to start with the sand dollar fishing weight. It's designed for beaches and rolling flats on coastal waters. It does best in those soft sandy beaches that don't have aggressive current. Due to the flat surface of its design and the dimple on the front and the back, it helps itself to hold in place and present your bait or lure to fish passing by that looks natural from pulls of current along the shoreline. It's typically used best with what we call a high-low rig. So this would be the low, high. Coming out, you'd have two hooks here swinging freely and in a natural presentation as wind and waves push it along in a more neutral manner. A surefire way to use this when you don't want to be aggressive but passive with your tactics. The classic cannonball fishing weight, just as it sounds, looks like a miniature cannonball. The biggest pro of this style weight is you can make or find them in many different sizes and all over the world, regardless of the kind of fishing you may be doing. If fishing in deep waters, jigging, or placing bait in soft, non-rocky areas, this works very well. Many people who are trolling also use them as a sliding weight as they come and go on the line. While they're on a boat pulling along their gear, the weight helps to keep their setup at a specified and specific depth while in lakes, bays, and ocean. Many others use them for a technique called back bouncing. They allow the weight to be bounced from a boat downstream in a river, allowing the bait to be just off the bottom, but allowing the fisherman to have a solid connection and feel between the bait and any fish that starts chewing on their presentation. Now, the bad part with this style of weight, though, is that it's able to tumble. As we see, it rolls quite easy and can be easily lodged into different nooks and crannies, easily pushed around, and can be difficult to get back out once it's stuck inside of something. Knowing what kind of structure that you're fishing around will allow you to decide if this weight is worth putting on. Going into the inline trolling weight, this particular weight comes in two big varieties, and the one shown is the trolling style of weight. Typically larger than the more common inline, this one is typically made in much larger sizes with a stronger styled swiveled eyes to allow it to spin more freely when being pulled, helping it to prevent line twisting as well. This heavier design also allowed it to be used in many different kinds of water bodies such as lakes, bays, and oceans, which allow a more streamlined and efficient means of keeping your gear where you want it in the water column. Well, the larger issue most people have with this kind of weight, though, is when trolling is due to its heavier, larger size when fighting a fish. It does put more stress on your line, additionally acting like a counterbalance to put pressure on the hooks in the fish's mouth. Due to that, most people also add an extra 5 to 6 bead chain swivel to keep things spinning to prevent it from becoming too slack, keeping enough tension to make sure the fish cannot spit the hook. Going to the classic pyramid sinking weight, and as it sounds and looks, the pyramid sinker is a pyramid or triangularly shaped. This design comes in handy when fishing off the bottom in clay, muddy bottoms that are soft, allowing the sinker to dig with the sharp point into the bottom and keep your presentation right where you want it. And as one expects with such performance, it can hold its place regardless of the structure and terrain, even in strong and heavy currents. It's used all over the world between strong rivers and coastal shorelines as well. But the biggest problem you will always have with this is if you use too light of a weight. It's not heavy enough. When fishing a new spot that you are not familiar with, it may not have the weight to keep it where you want and eventually becoming loose, bouncing downstream into some debris and nearby issues and getting stuck. Additionally, using one that's too heavy will cause the weight to gather excess debris like mud, dirt, grime, or even sticks and boulders, causing it to cause your line to get tangled and eventually losing all your gear with it. Bank sinkers, one of the most commonly used sinkers for beginners, especially in lakes and ponds across North America, is the original bank sinker. Used as another for high and low rigs, as well as sliding rigs. This weight's a favorite among big carp and cat fishermen all throughout North America. It's also been used for many species such as perch, bluegill, bass, and rainbow trout. And its design allows it to sink deep into the bottom where their many larger species tend to hide in nasty crevices and holes and logs and ledges. The large eye formed within this weight allows many different kinds of knots to be worked well in it. And it can be used in saltwater fisheries such as deltas and estuaries, where soft, salty, muddy bottoms hold bait fish and shrimp and crabs that are escaping larger predators such as flounder, redfish, speckled trout, and many others. As versatile as it is, though, the largest limiting factor for this kind of rocky outcrops and boulders, this slimmer, long design doesn't fare well in places that have sharper ledges, allowing itself to be caught with these rough, jagged ledges and edges. Due to that large eye open design as well, it is exposing your knot right here to those rough conditions when tied regardless of the line you use, causing it to have a higher chance of being cut or broken when encountering those sharpened or drop-off obstacles. Do you remember when I said there's a second kind of inline sinker that I mentioned before? This is the more common version, and it's used wonderfully in rivers and lakes and in many different varieties of techniques. When bobber fishing in rivers, many use this style of weight to keep steady along current seams, allowing their bait or lure to float more naturally. And as you have the bobber give better signs and indications as when you are having a bite as well. This less bulky design allows it to drop smoother in the water column, allowing to sit vertically inline with the entire presentation. It's a salmon, steelhead, trout fisherman, bobber fisherman's delight. It has also gained a lot of use with those using smaller, lighter lures, such as spinners and spoons, applying this to your line and giving at least 12 inches worth of leader, then attaching it either to a snap swivel or directly to your lure to increase your casting distance. Additionally, because of its streamlined design, it allows the lure to move as it's designed without interfering with its performance, possibly increasing your ability to fish deeper with it as well, and keep line from twisting around and getting tangled as your spinner or spoon swivels around in the water. The issue that some have with it, though, is usually due to not taking the time to understand that when you cast, you will have two forms of weight on that line. Making sure you long, straight arm cast this and not a side arm cast will allow you to prevent any tangles and twists in your line. A more classic approach with great success is the Halfmoon, or also known as the banana weight, due to its design. A very well-known weight used on both the west and east coasts of North America. It's a big favorite among those in lakes, as well as when trolling for trout, kokanee, char, salmon, the steelhead, to give a few names. Its half-moon shape allows it to flutter when casted, giving the view of injured bait and using that curiosity of fish to help bring them to your presentation. While being trolled, that flutter happens periodically, allowing it to give a little flash as well. Another very popular technique with this design is also called mooching, where a long leader is applied with two hooks, known as the mooching rig, where you then apply the bait of your choice, typically done with herring, anchovies, squid, sardines, and you let it flutter slowly to the bottom or the depth of your choice in swells of current. And you either let the current flutter the bait around or reel slowly back up, casting it out again. It's this swivel chain that's attached to your leader that shifts freely as needed, allowing an almost perfect natural presentation in a neutral presentation, encouraging many predatory fish species to take that easy-looking bait. The problem, though, with this particular sinker, though, is that when casting, it can swing wildly if done in a sidearm cast and should only really be dropped down slowly to prevent tangling or aggressively casted with a straightforward cast, preventing it from gaining momentum in front of any bait or lure used. Probably one of the first weights used by beginners in lakes and popular with those using Carolina rigs or the Texas rig, it's also a great sliding weight, is the egg and bullet sinkers. Due to its design, it is one of the most versatile weights on the market, allowing you to use it with pretty much any combination of lures or bait and in a wide variety and range of structures. Many people who do use this weight with a Carolina rig use it as a way to help reduce the amount of pressure a fish feels when taking your presentation. Its line through design ensures that you have your rod indicate you are having a bite, as well as prevent any shy fish from recognizing it as it has your line. It's one of the most used weights when fishing in lakes for trout, bass, catfish, in North America, and in Europe, it's a big success for those chasing catfish and carp. And as I said, it can be used easily with a sliding weight, so you could easily put your line right through. Slide it up and down, have it on a swivel on one end so that way it doesn't have an issue, and it's the beginning part and typical weight used with the Carolina rig. An optional but very versatile use is color coding your weights. As you can see, I still have two Halfmoon weights here. They're both 4 ounces, but depending on what I'm doing, I like to have a different color. So the 2 different banana weights colored here are in easy to see colors. If you're out fishing and having to switch weights often due to changing conditions, there should be some sort of consideration in helping yourself and others make sure that you're using the right size of weight as well. You can use many kinds of paint, though dipping and spraying are the most common. Color coding your weights just makes things easier when you're quickly trying to recognize what size you need without having to take too much time. Give it a thought. So for a lot of you beginners, you may notice that there are some numbers on each of these weights. These are weighed in ounces. So as this one says 2, 3, 4, 5, we have 2 ounces, 3 ounces, 4 ounces, 5 ounces. So if you're fishing a particular area and you notice you're not staying where you want it to be, or you're not getting down deep enough where you want to be, increasing the number will also help you increase size of weight. This basic knowledge will help you make sure that later down the road, you can anticipate what size weights you need for your applications. Going into pencil lead stick weights, they have 2 main kinds. We got solid and then we have hollow. With the solid styled stick weights, it's as it sounds. There's no space inside of the pencil lead shaped piece, regardless of wherever you cut it. Comparing it to the hollow, you don't need to use as much of it to get the same amount of weight you are wanting. You just simply cut off a chunk that you think is appropriate for the proper situation and go. Hollow has a hole, as it sounds, through the entire length of the stick. When you cut one end open, you will be able to see right there that you can run your line all the way through. You can slide your line directly and then crimp off one of the ends to keep it in place. Typically, this piece of lead is used specifically in river systems or when bobber fishing. It allows the user to adjust the amount of weight they want to use and even bend the shape of the lead easily to help with bouncing along the bottom as if they were drifting downstream to give a much more natural approach. The more natural looking something is going downstream, the more likely fish are to investigate it and actually take it. So using these to allow you to have that natural drift will allow you to get a better presentation for your bait. And there's many ways to attach this kind of pencil lead, regardless if it is solid or hollow. The favorite old school way to use it is using surgical tubing that has a 1/4 inch opening. You slide it over the top of this and you allow that to have some suction and force to hold it in place. You simply take a swivel and connect to the tubing and cut off the amount of lead you want to use. They are typically coming in packages with a big roll just like this. A more modern approach, though, has been to get a pair of pliers that have the ability to put a hole through a puncher right here. See? And so what we would do is we just take the top end of this pencil lead, we would line it up with the hole and push through. It might take a time or two to get enough, but you can see the hole is made, and that's where you would attach your line. So you can use either a swivel or you can use your line directly to do that. I'll take this swivel just to give an explanation so you can see. It's a snap swivel. As that hole sounds and looks good right there, you would just connect it and close that down. The issue with this kind of lead, though, is, especially for beginners, is completely up to the user to understand how much they're cutting off. How much does this actually weigh? Cutting off too much of this lead to get stuck on the bottom is going to happen very quickly, and you'll learn. So learning to judge the speed of the water or the current is paramount in making sure you don't have too many issues. And as they say, all things, practice is key. I hope this helps you guys. Thanks.